Dear MK,
Can you help me?
oh my god, you'll never believe what happened.
I need advice.
Thank you, MK.
Welcome to the Dear MK podcast.
Alright, okay, just gonna dive right into just the feels during and after. Are you gonna be some relationship?
Yeah.
Okay. Ready? 3, 2.
Welcome back to Dear MK. I had to put my laptop down. Should I start over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just do it again. Welcome back to Dear MK.
Hi.
We're talking all things mental health today.
I don't know. We had planned an episode on OCD, and then we decided we were gonna, I think, broaden that up, and then just kind of go over everything, when you're in these relationships, and then a lot about the after effects and what it's like, We've talked about your brain after trauma a little bit, but just dive more into that mental health aspect and talk about what it's like to be in relationships, also maybe not abusive, and just be dealing with mental health struggles at the same time.
Yeah, I think everyone at some point in their life will deal with some sort of mental health struggle, especially like anxiety, depression. I feel like those are the most common. And when it comes to being in toxic and unhealthy relationships, it's just bound to happen.
Yeah.
Like if you're being belittled every day, if you're experiencing any type of trauma and it's a pattern, like if we're in an unhealthy relationship, it's happening almost every day to the point where it is going to have an impact on your mental health, and that can look so many different ways.
Exactly.
I think one, you can just be feeling down or just not as excited about things, especially if it's you're walking on eggshells and you're I can't go see my friends or go do the things that I want, and then you feel that just kind of uncomfort of I don't know what's coming when I want to go do these things or say I want to do these things. I think there's that kind of level to it of you're just anxious and sad and you're I don't really know what to do, but then it can also go to the scale of you can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
You feel like a shell of a human. You are not the same person that you were before.
And I think it's really hard, too, to distinguish when you're feeling the effects of that abusive relationship versus when you're dealing with the aftermath, which is when it kind of, I think, becomes a mental health disorder, which is different because obviously, if you're in that situation, you're going to feel like shit. But it's it's hard to determine where the line is. Am I suffering from this thing with a definition and a name, or am I just feeling like shit because I'm in a terrible situation with a terrible person?
Yeah, and I think so the best indicator if you are unable to determine whether or not you think you have a mental health disorder, or you're just feeling sad a little more than normal, would be one, how long has this been happening? If it's an extended period of time that you feel this way, that's for sure an indicator. 2, if it's disrupting your daily functioning, that's also a huge indicator of a mental health disorder. So kind of going back to what I was saying, if you feel like you can't get out of bed, if you have a loss of appetite, if your favorite things just don't bring you any kind of happiness anymore, stuff like that is usually more of a mental health disorder versus you feeling just extra sad or
or just kind of dealing with the effects of your environment.
Exactly.
I think something I struggled with a lot was I definitely felt all those symptoms and I ticked the boxes, but I kind of invalidated my own feelings, and I thought well, no one sat you down and told you you're struggling from this, so it doesn't count kind of thing. So I think especially if you're feeling those things and you're thinking that might be something you're experiencing, that's when doing some of your own research can be really beneficial, and then going to talk to someone and saying hey, look, I am experiencing X, Y, and Z, and then they can kind of give you that, yes, if you feel like you're struggling from this, you might be, and they can either name or define it, because I think something that's really hard is using a big term when you feel like it might not be deserving. So, like, if you're feeling really upset and you're having a horrible time, like, it feels daunting to say, I don't know if I'm depressed or not. And, you know, you very well might be, but I think a lot of times if I'm in that kind of situation, I would say, well, so many people have it so much worse.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't use that term. That term is, like, for someone who's actually struggling.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of self-invalidation. So I think taking the time to understand what these things are, and we're going to go through the definitions of each, and then going to talk to someone and having them say, you know, this does or doesn't apply to you, really can be helpful in, you know, figuring out your next steps.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I think it's just like saying the word abuse too. Like, these are big, scary words. Mental health disorder, abuse, dating, violence. It sounds terrifying because it's so, like, stigmatized. But in reality, so many people are dealing with this every single day. Like, you are absolutely not alone in your feelings. And it's so common to also second-guess yourself or say that others have it worse. Again, because it's like, one, we would then have to address what's actually happening. And, like, yeah, that's scary to just admit that you're dealing with something. And it's also scary to admit that you need help with something. So acknowledging both of those things alone, I want to just say, is, like, a huge accomplishment, and something to be proud of, not ashamed of. And if you said something about kind of, like, writing down what you're feeling or being able to bring that to a therapist or a doctor, whoever you're talking to. Something that you can do is kind of like emotion log or thought log too. So every day you could, you know, just write the date, you can write the feelings you were having that day, and if you can identify when that was happening, that's also really key and would help immensely. If your therapist brought that to a therapist, they'd be like, wow. You are on top of your game. Because if it is, okay, well, Jerry was really mean to me this morning, and then I cried for an hour, and, like, the rest of the day I felt off or sad. Okay, well, that's circumstantial, right? But if you woke up and nothing had happened, and for days you're crying and you have no idea why, okay, that's something
different
to look at. Yeah, so I think that is also really important. Did you want to dive into, like, most common ones post-abuse?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's also just important to note before we get started that a lot of these, like, we don't have that recognition until it's in the past. Like, hindsight's 20/20. Like, a lot of times you're gonna feel, like, terrible in these situations, and, you know, we can say it's great to bring a list and to go talk to someone and to know X, Y, and Z, but that's not always realistic. So a lot of times I think, even, like, personally, when I've dealt with these things, it's always been like looking back, like, that's probably what that was. So I just want to give everyone some grace there, so that you know this isn't something that's easy to identify in the moment.
No, it's not. And that's why you have professionals. Like, that's why it's so important to talk to people. And you might go and, like, they might not even say, hey, you have anxiety or depression or OCD. Like, you can just talk about it, and it's not something that not every therapist would, like, pathologize everything. And I think that that's also just really important to say, if you are someone that's uncomfortable with that you can still get help, and they can write something else on, like, your diagnosis chart as well. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's get into it.
So these are what I guess we would believe to be the most common mental health disorders after abuse or around abuse. And if you look up, I think, if you were just look it up, like, you're going to get, like, PTSD.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. But we can also talk about depression and OCD in this one. And these are things that we have dealt with. Yeah. So let's start with depression. So depression is a mood disorder that occurs when feelings associated with sadness and hopelessness continue for long periods of time, and they interrupt regular thought patterns. It can affect your behavior and your relationship with other people. So again, it's normal for survivors to have sadness, unhappiness, hopelessness. But if those feelings persist, extend for a long period of time, that's when it might be an indicator of depression.
What's a long period of time, would you say?
I would say like a month.
Okay.
Yeah. There are specific, there is very specific criteria. If I were to, I should have brought my freaking DSM in here. It's in the other room. But usually it's around a month. But some disorders are like 3 months, 6 months, depending. Okay. And so this might include changes in sleep, appetite, energy, motivation level, concentration, daily behavior, or self-esteem. So that's the majority of what I feel like someone should know for depression. But I actually think it's probably best, now that I'm thinking about it, that I'm not saying specific time periods or like listing it out, because I actually really don't want anyone to listen to this and like try to diagnose themselves.
For sure.
So yeah, we're just gonna give like the basic definition and like signs and symptoms, and like that alone is enough to take to your doctor, to your therapist. I don't want anyone getting too in their head here. And then we have post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. This is definitely most commonly heard around, like, military. I feel like that's when, you know, we first started hearing about it. It used to have a different name. And now, you know, it can be related to literally anything. Like, trauma can look so different for so many people, just to, like, put that out there. Because sometimes you might think like, oh, this was so little, like, how do I have these effects? But every experience impacts everyone differently, so nothing is too small. If you're experiencing these things, it doesn't invalidate that. Okay, so this is an anxiety disorder that can result from a traumatic event, and it applies to any type of survivor. So you might experience feelings of stress, fear, anxiety, nervousness. Again, those are things that are normal. But then with PTSD, these feelings are extreme, and you just constantly feel like you are in danger, and that's what makes it difficult to function in your daily life. So like how I was saying before. So there are 3 different things that are really common underneath this, and they're gonna all survivors react differently, but the 3 main symptoms are re-experiencing, avoidance, and then hyperarousal. So re-experiencing was like you feel like you're reliving the event, like flashbacks, dreams, intrusive thoughts. And then avoidance is if you are either intentionally but also subconsciously avoiding specific scenarios and or changing your behavior to avoid scenarios that might be associated with that event that caused you trauma. So it could also look like losing interest though in things that you used to enjoy. And then hyperarousal, feeling just on edge all the time, like you're really jumpy, jittery, and that probably is going to also be associated with like the lack of sleep, or just maybe you're even like prone to sudden outbursts. So like whether you're like crying at something or you're really angry at something and you have no idea kind of why you reacted that way, which is sort of like a primal type of state. Some people describe that as. And do you want to talk about, like, have you experienced, before I move on, just any of those?
I definitely, you were going down the line and I was thinking, I probably only have the first one, which was
the re-experiencing.
Yes, because nightmares were a huge thing for me, and I had that issue where, like, any face I saw, I thought was him, or, like, I thought he was going to be everywhere I was, but then I'm sorry, can you go down the list again? What was the second one?
Avoidance.
That was huge because I, like, changed all of my routines. I was scared to go to, like, my college dining hall. I've talked about this before, but I was scared of the entire state he lived in. Like, I didn't feel like I could drive through it or be in it. And then the last one was the hyperarousal.
Yeah, just feeling on edge.
And that was, like, that constant state of anxiety that I was in. So I did get diagnosed with PTSD afterwards, and then they told me that anxiety and OCD were both kind of like forms of that PTSD. So those were probably disorders I had been dealing with prior, and I had what's the word, like
sorry, I don't know which way you're going.
That's okay.
Or just like that, like, they intensified after.
Yeah, like they said there were definitely signs and indicators of those before I had experienced the trauma, but then the trauma was what kind of, like, kicked them into high gear.
Yeah, like maybe you had tendencies and then it developed into, like, a disorder. Okay.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah, so I definitely experienced all three of those.
Yeah, me too. And pretty similarly, I've always had very, very intense dreams. I still do. Not all, like, trauma related. I'm just someone that very intensely dreams.
I'm the same way.
Like, I remember my dreams every day. So that was a big one for me, and he would always be in my head, but also, like, and same with you, like, when they would just show up in general, like, my abuser would just show up and, like, be in my space and, like, arrive at events that I was at after we were broken up. So that definitely did not help my also re-experiencing. Like, I've definitely told this story before, but I very, like, vividly remember going into a CVS one time in my hometown, and I genuinely thought I saw him, like, genuinely was like, and then had a bit of, like, a panic attack, got back in my car, waited in my car, and then watched that, like, was watching people come out, and I'm like, he's not in there. Like, that was in my head, but it feels so real in the moment. Like, and that's something that is really hard to kind of comprehend if you haven't experienced it. But if you have experienced it, you know exactly what we're talking about. And that's super, super common, and it can be really scary. And, like, having a moment where you really re-experience something, of course you're gonna avoid things. Like, I think those kind of pair together. If you're having these PTSD experiences, you're just gonna want to avoid life. Like,
exactly.
I didn't want to, like, leave my house sometimes. It's,
no,
like,
me neither.
Especially if you are, you know, at the same school as your perpetrator, you live in the same town as your perpetrator, and it's like, when we know that 8 out of 10 people know their abuser, everyone, like, that means 80% of people are probably experiencing this, that, you know, if you're a survivor. So I just want to, you know, normalize that. But when you find yourself experiencing these things and avoiding the things that, you know you have to do, especially if it's work or school, that is so important to get the help you need. Yeah.
I feel like I can't reiterate enough how real that feeling is. Like, it's something I wish was easier to describe, but it's like, I felt like I had this phenomenon where I almost forgot what he looked like. So anyone I saw with, like, any sort of similar defining traits, I immediately thought looked just like him. And then if you told me to, like, sit down and close my eyes and really picture him, I felt like I couldn't do it.
That's so interesting, but I still have that.
Like, I still, this happens to me still, where, like, there's, I don't want to say too much, but, like, the hair type and color was very specific. So anytime I see someone with, like, that specific type of hair, I, like, think it's him. And I, like, if you told me to sit down and, like, really picture the face underneath the hair, I, like, can't do it that well. And I don't know if that's for a lack of, like, blocking it out.
Oh, probably.
Or
like,
just not able to, but it's, like, I see this one thing and it makes me think anyone could be him.
Well, it's like, it is like a trigger of it, you know, like your brain has associated. So it's like, even if you have a little bit blocked out what this person looks like you see, I mean, say it's like a tall person or like a large man, like this large person now in your brain is like associated with danger. Yeah. So when you see other large people, you're just gonna like, it's a little jarring, like it's a little scary, and then your brain like then has to process, this is not the same person, like they're not going to hurt you. And that takes a long time to do.
The best way I can describe it is like, imagine if you needed glasses or contacts and you weren't wearing them, and like you saw the shape, just like the distant shape of someone you thought you knew. It's like that, but you would see them all the time because it's literally just a shape. Yeah. And it's like your brain profiles so many people, and you feel like that person is everywhere and surrounding you, and that's such like a daunting and such a scary feeling. Yeah.
What a great metaphor.
Thank you so
Kudos. Much. No, I think that's such a great example. And then, like, hyperarousal and being on edge, again, just seems natural if you have those other things going on. Yeah. Like, if, just in what you're saying, like, you see that kind of, like, blur of a person or figure of a person, and your brain starts associating that, you're gonna be a bit jumpy. Like, you're gonna be hesitant to move forward in your surroundings because your brain is still trying to like decode, is this safe or not for you? So like that all makes sense to me, and I think I'm not as jumpy anymore, but I used to be extremely jumpy.
I still am.
Like, I am a little bit. I wouldn't say I am to the same extent, but I've talked about this before. Like, I still avoid things, and that's like something I'm working on, and I think I'll be working on for
forever.
Like a really long time. But there are still certain things that I just like don't feel safe doing by myself, and I will avoid them. But that's also like, it's nice right now that, I mean, I do have a loving partner that will go like do things for me if I need. I don't love that piece of like codependency that I have, but I'm also like the first one to admit that I have it. Yeah. And I think that that's natural after being in unsafe or unhealthy relationships. Like, once you find someone that's great for you and they are safe and like they'll kind of help you with the things that you struggle with, it's pretty easy to say like, hey, yeah, I'll let you take care of me in this way, because like I need that. But at the end of the day, that's also something that I would like to continue to work on within myself, because I don't want to have to rely on a partner to like go to the store for me or grab something or whatever it is. But I also just want to like normalize that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think going to the store is the perfect example, and I think about it in terms of how much energy it takes. So like, if I can go to the store by myself, I am fully capable. Yeah. But if I go to the store to get one thing by myself, in and out, it takes probably 4 times as much energy as it takes for me to do a full grocery trip with my partner. Because it's like, you have part of your brain that you can just like turn off. Yep. And you're like, I'm safe, it's okay. But it's like, the second I step into that same exact location by myself, like the hypervigilance turns on, and it's like, you just don't. Exactly. You're fully capable, and you know you're fully capable, but it's so frustrating because you know, like, my heart's working twice as fast, my brain's in overtime, like, I'm using every ounce of my peripheral vision, like,
It's exhausting.
It is, and you can feel every ounce of your body, like, on edge, and, you know, in theory, it's like, yeah, I'm working on doing things. Why would I want to do that? Like, why would I want to waste so much energy on, like, I need asparagus. Right? Like, that's stupid. Right. Like, I don't want to waste my energy on something that doesn't, like, fulfill me that much individually. Like, I shouldn't put that much effort into, like, a basic human necessity. And it's frustrating.
It is frustrating. I love that you just said that, because you described it perfectly again. Like, that is exactly how I feel. If I am by myself, I have to be thinking of so many things all the time. Like, Am I safe? What's around? Do I have something on me to protect myself? If someone comes up behind me, what am I doing? Like, constantly playing through scenarios in my head. Like, of just, what's going to happen? What will I do? And I hate that feeling so much. I actually went grocery shopping by myself yesterday.
How was it?
I was okay, actually. I went to somewhere that wasn't, like, very crowded. Mm-hmm. And, when I got home, my partner got home a couple hours later, saw that I went grocery shopping and was, like, blown away. I was like, I know. Aren't you proud of me? It's like, and I want, honestly, and, like, I want that recognition because it is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, I feel really good when that's acknowledged. Okay, that was a good rundown of PTSD. Now, I didn't talk about, like, my experience with depression because I never had depression. Like, I've never been diagnosed with depression. I've experienced it in, like, the winters, and I have panic attacks in the winter. But I've never been diagnosed with it, and I feel like more than anything, I have anxiety more than that. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to speak on that part, but did you?
I was also never diagnosed. I do think I experienced it the summer after I went home.
Okay.
Because it was a very cyclical, just, like, I saw no purpose in life. I was like, I don't understand why I'm here. Like, I felt so drained. Like, I, like, didn't want to wake up in the morning. Like, literally thought, like, I wish I was dead. Like, that would be so much easier. Sounds horrible to say, but it's like...
No, but that's what you were feeling.
It was the genuine feeling, so I do think, even without being diagnosed, that is something I definitely experienced for a period of time, but that wasn't one of, like, the long-lasting effects, because that was really just, like, in the brunt of dealing with everything and getting over it and feeling like... That was before I got my 209A as well. Okay. So...
A lot of anxiety of,
yes,
like, what's gonna happen.
I felt like I had nothing protecting me. Yeah. So it was just like I was living in a perpetual state of what's he gonna do next. Mm-hmm. So I think that definitely sent me into a spiral, and it was just like wake up, cry, go to the gym, cry on the way back, go to work, like eat dinner, cry in the shower, and then I'd like get in my car again and like cry at the park.
Yeah. Like totally some depression there.
But it wasn't... I only remember it in that small period of time, and I think once progression started happening in terms of just, like, my safety and how the relationship was, like, resolving itself, I guess, for a better lack of terms, like, that I did come out of that, which I feel lucky about, because I know a lot of people, like, those patterns are cyclical for them with depression, and that's not something I can speak on because I haven't experienced, but I do agree that anxiety was definitely my larger part of that PTSD and definitely was a greater contributor to that depression.
And that makes total sense. Like, you're literally living in fear. The unknown is terrifying, and there are so many survivors that don't have the support systems or the resources to get protections or the things that they need just because of so many different circumstances and barriers they might face. So I feel like for a lot of people that also might like persist so much longer. Yeah. And yeah, it's important to note too that like all of these ebb and flow for some people, especially if you have medications too and like you're adjusting to things or you're trying new ones or you have life circumstances happening. Like you might have really dark times and then like they might get a little bit better and you might go back into them. But again, that's why it's just so important to have support systems and coping skills for these things, because I feel like no one can get through it alone. Yeah. I mean, some people do, but you shouldn't have to.
I don't know how.
You shouldn't have to. No, I don't know how either. Let's move on to OCD. So OCD is a long-lasting disorder in which a person experiences uncontrollable and reoccurring thoughts, aka obsessions, engages in repetitive behaviors, also called compulsions, or both, People with OCD have time-consuming symptoms that can cause significant distress or interfere with daily life. And I think we find this really interesting to talk about because it's not talked about. Like, I still haven't really heard many, I mean, I think maybe like once or twice I've heard someone be like, oh yeah, after this abusive relationship I developed OCD. Like, it's always PTSD, anxiety, or depression. So that's why I like to bring this one up and like why we like to talk about it. But I do think a huge factor in it is just the control piece, because it's like, well, at one point you didn't have control. Like, there was a loss of control in whatever forms of abuse you were experiencing. So gaining that control back and like realizing you have power over certain things is kind of, I just think, where it can develop.
Or the oh my goodness, the extensive need to control what the few things you do have control over. So it's like this person took everything from you, but it's like I can control how many times I turn that light on, or how many times I touch that water bottle, or how many times I wash my hands, that kind of thing. So even in instances where that person is still exerting so much control over certain aspects of your life, it may feel like you have to cling on to the few things that you feel like you can control. And
even with like the clean part of it, which OCD is often like stigmatized or just like incorrectly talked about, and they're like, oh, you're just a clean freak, you have OCD. Like, that's not it. But I will say, I think like the cleanliness piece, at least for me, was also just like, well, when you're violated, it's like the same idea. It's like, you're violated, you feel dirty, disgusting. So it's like, how many times can I shower? Or like, if this isn't perfectly clean, like, I can't think, like, I can't do my next thing. And that's something that I definitely experienced and sometimes still experience. If my surroundings aren't exactly the way that I need them, I physically like cannot do the thing I need to do. And that's where it like would disrupt some of my daily functioning. I'm like taking an hour to clean when like something's due for class, or like, oh, that was my only time to make breakfast and like now I can't, I'm gonna go through my day without like eating. Like, I would skip over stuff that was a necessity for me to do, or like I needed, and then I would clean, but it's like it's not really benefiting me in that moment. So it's like I would have to do things that you would think are like benefiting you, but it definitely wasn't. And having those just like compulsive, scary thoughts, like OCD can be very, very scary. It can sound like, I think I'm gonna like murder this person, or this person's gonna murder me, and like you can't get those like obsessive kind of thoughts out of your head, and like it fully takes over. You believe it to be real. Like if this, for me for a while, was like if someone like sits on my bed with their outside clothes, or like someone touches my bed and they didn't just like wash their hands, then I'm literally spiraling in my mind. Like, I'm gonna get sick, I need to throw this in the wash right now, like I feel so just dirty and disgusting. Like, I couldn't even think like how could you do that to me? Like, that's how it would feel in my mind. Like, you're hurting me by like touching my bed.
I had the same thing, and I think mine came in 3 very distinct forms, which was cleanliness, routine, and superstition. I want to talk about cleanliness first, because that's definitely not something I had my entire life. That definitely came strictly as a result of trauma, and it manifested very similarly to what you described. And like you said, it was like you feel violated, you feel dirty. I felt like my actual skin itself was disgusting, so I became very hyper aware of the things that felt safe to me. So for me, that was my bed and certain clothes. So certain clothes couldn't go outside. They were inside clothes because that was the safest place for them, and I didn't want them contaminated with external germs. And then those became the only clothes that could go in my bed because that was also my safe space.
Literally
so,
the same.
anything that went outside then couldn't go inside the bed, couldn't touch my inside clothes, and I couldn't change into inside clothes if I hadn't showered after wearing my outside clothes.
Me too.
And it's silly when you think about it, because the outside of your clothing touches the outside of the world, and then the inside of your clothing doesn't. But to me, like, the second that piece goes out, it's all contaminated.
Same.
And it's like my skin was contaminated too.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to clean absolutely everything off. And I ended up getting, like, new bedding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so... Tip number 1.
Change your bedding.
I mean, I feel like that's most people's first instinct, especially after, like, sexual assault. Like, you get rid of everything.
Yes. So that was really hard even after, because I was like, oh, I let this person into my bed, I let this person see me naked, I let this person come to, like, my house, like, not just where I'm living, like, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And that took forever to get over. I felt like everything was disgusting, and I had to be, it was, like, almost sacred, like, what I would let touch my body or what I would let come into my home.
Yeah.
And then that kind of manifested into routine, so I was like, what can make me feel the least obsessive about this? And that was like, okay, I can get a lot of these thoughts out if I go to the gym. Because I can go to the gym and I can stick to a very strict routine, and I can count every single thing that I'm doing, and it's not, like, unhealthy. So it was like an outlet almost. So I was like, if I wake up and I go to the gym, I can get out all this excessive counting and routine following, so maybe I can have it, like, out of my system for the rest of the day. But then it was, okay, if there's no point in going to the gym if you can't drink your green juice before you go to the gym in the morning, because your green juice is what helps make your tummy not hurt, so you go to the gym. And then it's like, okay, well, if I go to the gym and I can't have my smoothie after, there was no point of doing exercise, because then I'm not getting in my protein and my healthy foods after. So it's like, if I want to do that, and I have a whole day open, and I can go to the gym, but I don't have a banana for my smoothie, the whole entire thing is ruined. Because if I can't have the banana, then I can't have the whole smoothie, because the smoothie's not going to be right. But if I can't have the smoothie, then I can't go to the gym. Yeah. And then the whole day is going to be offset and ruined. So it's like you just kind of spiral, because you need all these things to be exactly one way so they can make you feel safe and secure. And that's so frustrating. Yeah. Because, like, I sit here and I'm still like that. Like, I
was just gonna say, everything you're saying is so how I am.
Like
if this doesn't happen, then what, I'm not gonna do this then, or, like, it's just,
this ruins this, ruins this, ruins this. It's like,
yeah.
The thing about OCD that's exhausting is that everything feels like a chain reaction. Yeah. So it's like one thing causes another action, the same way if something doesn't happen. It's like, okay, if this is wrong, then everything is offset. Yeah. So it's really hard to change routines. And this is something that kind of indicated to me and my doctors that this was something I had dealt with before trauma. It just really hadn't kicked into high gear. Yeah. So I've always felt very, I guess, obsessive about my routines, and I've gotten very, very anxious if I, like, couldn't pursue that, and decisions have always been really hard for me because I always had this immense anxiety about making the wrong decision. So it's like I'll overthink to the point of becoming, like, absolutely paralyzed, and then I can't even do anything. Yeah. Because it's the fear of offsetting one little thing from that routine.
It's also, like, trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Again. Because it's like, well, if I made these choices to be with these people and then these things happen to me, like, how can I trust myself in other scenarios?
Yeah. The biggest example, like, in my family is I had, like, an ice cream meltdown one night. This was, like, have I told you this?
Yeah, but tell it again.
This was before I went to college, so before I met this partner and ever had this experience, my parents and I had little pints of ice cream in the freezer, and we were gonna watch TV and have ice cream together. And I stood in front of the freezer for so long because I just couldn't pick a flavor. And my dad was like, well, do you want to open them up and, like, see what, like, try one or two and see which one you want? Just put whatever you don't want back. I mean, it's only the three of us living there. He's like, no one's going to care if you take a bite of the ice cream.
Right.
And I was like, no, that's wrong, because then there'll be a bite missing, so I can't do that. And he's like, okay, well, do you want to, like, process of elimination? And I'm like, no, what if I make the wrong decision? And I'm standing in front of the freezer for, like, 20 minutes at this point, and I'm, like, hyperventilating because I'm like, I don't understand what the right choice will be, but I felt like if I picked the wrong ice cream, then I wouldn't enjoy sitting and eating it. Then I would have had all the ice cream and the sugar and the calories for nothing. Then it would have been a waste of the evening. Then I wouldn't be able to do it the next night because I would have already had ice cream tonight. And it's like, it spirals so far out of control for, like, no reason. And it just gets to the point where, like, my whole body will shut down.
No, I can very much resonate with that. And you gave some really great examples, I think, for the listeners. I'm, like, getting stressed out, like, listening to you, too. And I'm thinking to myself, like, those are my day-to-day thoughts. Mm-hmm. But I think I've just become so, like, used to them that sometimes I'll forget certain things. And that is something that's so hard to deal with when you live with other people, you know, whether it's, like, roommates or significant others. Like, my significant other still thinks I'm, like, nuts for some of my things, and, like, just obviously, like, no one's gonna truly understand your, like, compulsions or obsessions. Like, no one knows what it's like to live in your head. So it is hard to describe to people, and someone listening might be like, oh, these girls are crazy.
Or, like, oh, like, that's not, you're just making something out of nothing.
Right, exactly. And that's definitely what it sounds like to someone that doesn't have that or doesn't understand. And same with PTSD. Like, if someone's like, well, don't avoid it anymore. Like, just go out and, like, exposure therapy. I'm like, please.
Okay.
You don't get it.
I have two things I want to touch on about living with other people. I was lucky enough this year to live with a roommate who has also been diagnosed with OCD, but not as the result of any trauma. It's genetic. Like, most of the women in her family have it, and she had a very, very different forms than I have. She was, like, very physical, had to pick things up and put things down certain times. She had, like, a carpet routine at night, so she would step on one carpet and then step on another carpet and then have to do something else before she got into bed. And it was really nice to see it manifest so differently in someone else, but have them still be able to understand the feelings that I had. So I know that's not an opportunity everyone will get, but even if you can go, like, online or on, like, Reddit or something, and just, like, I think sometimes reading through, or, like, on TikTok, like, a day in my life of someone who, like, deals with these things, and seeing how it manifests in other people and how other people cope with these things can be really helpful and really validating. But it's also really, really frustrating in a relationship, like, going into your next successful relationship, if this is something you deal with from trauma or not from trauma, it can be really, like, embarrassing.
Exactly.
And you feel really self-conscious about it, and there's so many times where, like, we'll park the car, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but, like, we have to go over there. We have to park at a new spot.
I do the same thing.
And it's like, or, like,
like, physically makes me so uncomfortable.
Yes. Or I only walk on the left side of my partner. But sometimes I get self-conscious. You know the sidewalk rule?
Yeah.
I get so self-conscious that people look at my partner and are like, oh my god, he's such a bad boyfriend. He's letting her walk facing the street. But it's just that I physically can't walk on the other side of his body.
Yeah.
Like, I have to be on the left at all times. So if that happens to be the side that the street's on, so be it.
I'm like that with sitting in a lot of places. Like, if we switched, that would cause me anxiety.
I'd throw up.
And Kate's really great because sometimes we are in other situations and she'll just go on that side of me. Like, she's like, oh, I just assumed. And I'm like, thank you. And in cars, like, if I'm in the back seat, I have to be on the right side. Like, in general, like, if I'm not driving, I have to be on the right side. Either in the passenger seat or the right side of the back seat. And growing up, like, that's where I sat. And same thing with, like, our kitchen table. Like, if I can't sit in my seat, I am so uncomfortable, so upset. And, like, my family, like, knows that too, so no one will sit there. Ironically, this weekend I went home and my boyfriend came with us for Mother's Day, and my sister sat in my seat because she was like, oh, well, don't you just want to sit in between me and your boyfriend? And I was like, no. Like, get out of my seat. And everyone's, like, laughing because they know. And I'm like, why'd you even just try that with me? Like, you know how I feel. And same thing with, like, in beds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to be laying, if we're looking at the bed, the right side or the left. Right now I'm on your left. So
You're
I would
on
be
my
on,
left,
I would
yeah.
be on his left. So, like, sitting and on, like, couches or in beds, like, I'm on the left side, but in vehicles,
I'm on the right
side.
Yeah, I have it with...
Is that weird?
With certain people, like, I always like to be on the left, but if I'm... Like, if we were to get in the car and both sit in the back seat, it wouldn't really matter to me.
Okay.
But if I were to get in the car with my boyfriend and sit in the back seat, I'd have to be on his left.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to, like... I'll sit in the, I've sat in the backseat of a car with him before. I can't recall sitting in a backseat of a car with you before. So we haven't set that precedent for me yet. So it doesn't really.
It would be confusing because we sit this way.
Yeah. and then you'd need to sit on the right. But like there were a bunch of weekends we and one of my roommates would go to the same coffee place and she would always drive. Mm-hmm. And a couple like weeks in, I said to her, I was like, "Hey, I'd love to take you. But I can't." Like, we've established this routine. You drive, I sit in the passenger seat, and it's like, as much as I'd love to return the favor,
you got comfortable.
I can't do that. Like, going to that place. You want to go somewhere else. You want to go to Target, I'll take you to Target.
That's so interesting.
But I can't, like, disrupt that one routine that we have.
Yeah. It's just, like, you get, like, stuck on one thing, and then, you just spiral in your head of, like, if I don't do this thing, all these other things are gonna happen, and, like, it's just gonna be the end of the world. Like, that's what it feels like.
The best, I have, like, physical and emotional feelings. So when it's, like, say it's how we're sitting, that makes me feel a very physical way. Like, I feel like the entire inside of my body gets itchy. Like, this is the outside of my skin. I feel like the inside layer of my skin gets itchy. Or, like, my blood is, like, itching.
Mine's, like, a heart rate thing. Like, my heart's gonna go a little faster. Like, I'm upset. Like, I feel like it is a bit of a fight or flight feeling for me, I guess, because it's, like, my heart's racing fast. I feel as though if I don't make the right move, something bad will happen. If it persists, or, like, someone was like, well, what's the big deal? Like, or they're like, haha, this is so funny, you just don't want me on your bed, and they're, like, still sitting there and, like, don't get it, which has happened to me before, then I'm actually now, like, I'm angry, and I don't know how to, like, it feels like I can't even think to cope.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I get in, like, temper tantrum mode.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like, I am a calm person. I can understand my emotions, but if I'm feeling anxious and then I'm getting that, like, overwhelmed feeling, like, I get, like, I want to yell and, like, strangle you. Like, I can't verbalize. I can't.
Exactly. So I'm saying I can't even think to, like, even explain. And it's hard because sometimes you can't explain why you feel that way.
Exactly.
You're just like, this is
just not right.
Yeah, it just is what it is for me, and, like, you have to respect that. I've had these things since I was young. Both my parents, I believe, have OCD. Not that either of them were diagnosed with it, but if they were to go and get diagnosed, they would be. So I grew up with very, like, my parents, like, fold things a very specific way. My dad, like, rotates his clothes too, like. So if you don't fold it this exact way, like, if I were to do laundry at my house, I can't fold my dad's things because, like, he needs to fold them. And if we had, like, if our bed wasn't made, it would be an issue. If, like, a drawer was sticking out a little, like, little things would be an issue. Like, you could straight up eat off our floors. It is so clean in my house. And it was almost, like, too clean growing up to where, like, I felt like I couldn't have people over because then it's like
they would disrupt that.
They disrupt the space. So that was a very uncomfortable feeling for me to, like, comprehend as a kid. Even now, I'm like, definitely I've had to cope with things because my partner is a freaking mess and it drives me insane. Like, when people are like, you need separate bedroom, like, that's been trending recently, like, separate bedrooms. I'm all fucking for it. I'm for it. Besides, like, sleeping together, I think you should sleep together. That would just be, like, your straight up roommates. But whatever, I'm all for separate spaces. Anyways, if my mom would sit on my bed, like, after coming home from somewhere, I would literally freak out and be like, get off my bed.
Yeah.
And she would be so offended. Like, you think I'm dirty and, like, I'm your mom, blah, blah, blah. So, like, I always had that piece. But then it definitely, just got so much more intense after my relationships. And I do believe it was, like, just, for me, the control and, like, feeling just dirty. So, yeah, towels, bedding, like, personal things, I still have those same reactions to, but I've gotten a lot better about general spaces and, like, sitting, if I was in a situation where, like, these aren't my people around me, I can cope with sitting somewhere else. Like, I can do it, but if I'm with someone that I love and trust, or they're a friend of mine, I'd be like, I know this is weird, but can we switch seats? Like, that's fine, but I've learned, you know, coping skills for other stuff. But it does take so long, especially with any of this. If you aren't diagnosed or you don't know you have it and you're like, why the heck am I experiencing these things? Like, hopefully this makes some people feel more, like, validated.
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely the opposite than you growing up. Like, I didn't have any of those, like, germ or sensory things growing up. I didn't grow up in a household like that. That all came in after my relationship. I was always very particular about my face. Like, I could never use the same towel on my body and my face.
Yes.
But that was, like, the only thing I had when I was growing up. But I think those more, like, superstitious feelings are what I had when I was growing up that now, looking back, definitely were just OCD. But it was like
I have to wear this underwear to this, otherwise
I'm
gonna fail.
Do you have that?
Yeah.
I have one pair of underwear I have to wear every time we go to a specific bar, because I won't have a fun night if I don't wear that underwear to that bar. Or it's like, I would think that, like, if I thought about something bad happening to someone, that I was, like, willing it into existence. So I'd try to think of, like, how would I feel if this person died? And then I'd be like, oh my god, that person's gonna die. And then I'd be like, you have to reverse your thoughts. I do the same
thing. I still do that sometimes.
I have a big one is with my partner now, telling him to, like, be safe when he goes somewhere, because he played a college sport and he traveled to Texas this past year, and it was the first time he got hurt in his entire career, and I couldn't remember telling him to be safe before the game. So now, oh my god, it drives me insane, and I know it's wrong.
Yeah, that's, like, just gonna tear you.
But, like, he like, will leave my room at night, and I'm like, be safe, and I'm like, you didn't say enough. Be safe, be careful, text me when you get home, like, just be careful, drive safe, like, be careful. And it's like, I have to say it enough times until, like, I feel internally fulfilled that he, like, got the message, which is just like,
no,
what are you doing?
I totally get that. And I also have a lot of sensory things. Like, I usually have to be, like, holding something, playing with something. And when I was little, like, elementary school, I had really bad, like, separation anxiety from my parents. I had really awful anxiety as a kid. Like, I was in therapy, had nightmares, routines, all around safety. And my mom was like, okay, if I give you this little thing, you can keep it in your pocket and you can rub it and know that, like, I'm thinking of you and you're safe and, like, I'll always be here for you.
Did you get hyper attached to those things?
Yep. So now I have a collection of, like, 20 of these, what do they call it? The little charms that used to get them at Hallmark, and I don't know what stores they're in now, but it used to be a Hallmark thing. They're tiny charms, and then they have the little note with it. Do you know what I'm talking about? No. I feel like you do know. If you saw it, I think you'd know. Okay. They're, like, little, so sometimes it's a stone, a tiny stone, and that you could rub, and, like, some will have little, bumps on it, and some will have, like, maybe a 4-leaf clover, like, but it's, like, imprinted. Yeah. So things are either imprinted or, like, different textures. So they're like cool too. But then there's others that are like little animals or like, oh, a ladybug for good luck. So each charm means something different, and it has the little note that tells you what it means. So when my mom got me one of them, I got hyper fixated on that. And then she's like, I'm gonna have to get some more. So I now have like 20 of them. I don't use them anymore, but I did start like, I had a lot of anxiety when I would like public speak at first, and so I started carrying around a crystal with me. And I'd put it in my pocket, and in my mind I did the same exact thing. I would rub it if I felt anxious, and or I'd be like, this crystal means like I'm opening my heart and like all love is around me. Like I have to have some, or actually like the ring, I would have like my grandfather's ring that I wear a lot, and when I wear this ring I tell myself I'm safe and protected because like he's my protector angel. And yeah, so if I don't have like one of my little things, I feel like something's gonna happen. Yeah. But each one meant something different. So depending on what was happening that day, I would have like whatever thing.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was, I'm gonna have to find, maybe I'll get you one. Would you like
Stop, that? I'm gonna be like, can't take it, can't go anywhere without it, can't go anywhere without it.
They're all at my, I don't think I have them here, but they're at my, like, childhood home still. They're still, like, in my nightstand, like, never moved them.
I love that.
I'll have to show you one, but it's a thing. I think people would know what I'm talking about, too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They're really common, but I just don't know where they are, like, these days, because Hallmark is not a thing anymore, right?
No, it is.
Oh, did they shut down, like, half their stores then?
Well, Hallmark owns the paper store.
Okay, they're probably in the paper store then. I haven't seen a Hallmark in years, but I've seen the paper store, so next time you're in the paper store, check them out for my anxious girlies.
We gotta go look for them.
Yeah, now I'm like, do they still exist? Like, they must. They must. I wish I could remember what they're actually called. They're just like little charms, like not Lucky Charms. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up, but you can like continue talking about anything.
She leaves me to fend for myself to talk.
Well, now I'm like really want to show you.
No, I think it was interesting too when we talk about superstitious, because I'm gonna go back to my friend who I lived with who also had OCD, and she had like a hyperfixation around death. So she was afraid that if she didn't do certain things, someone that she cared about would die, or that she would die. And it was like, that was never something I had generally, but like her carpet thing or her tapping thing, like that was always...
Well, that's like one of the most common, especially like the death thoughts.
Yes. It's just looking at pictures on her iPad.
Because now I'm getting fixated on this. Here's like, they're showing me them, but it's not like what the ones I want to show you. It's on eBay. Does that mean these like don't exist anymore?
It might.
Okay, this is what it looks like. Oh my god, I wanted this one. It's called this one's Lucky Little Turtle Charm. So I think they all say Lucky Little whatever. And I have this one. A lucky little turtle, especially for you, to bring good luck and the whole day through. A smile it carries in the special wish for days of sunshine and happiness.
Oh, I would have been all over those.
So do you know what I'm talking about now, though?
Yeah, I understand it. I don't feel like I had them or like have seen them. But
that's crazy though that you haven't seen them.
I was really, really attached to my like stuffed animals. Like I thought they all had feelings, and I didn't feel like I could sleep with a new one because then my old ones would feel excluded. So then they had to all sleep on my bed, and then
line them up.
Oh yeah. There was, like, a point where I couldn't even fit on my bed anymore because they all needed to have an equal spot on my bed, and I didn't want anyone to feel left out.
Yep. I fully thought I was going to get kidnapped every night when I was in, like, 3rd and 4th grade, and my mom... God bless my parents, please. Like, they would put chairs, like, around my bed. So my bed was against a wall, and then the part that didn't have a wall next to it, they lined chairs. And then they'd put, well, I would put, but like together, all my stuffed animals along that side. So like they were protecting me. Mm-hmm. And that was just insane. Like the setup for nighttime.
Oh yeah, I had to sleep
process.
with one stuffed animal in this arm, one stuffed animal in this arm, and then I had Bear. She was a bear, but she was flat. Like, she just didn't have a lot of stuffing going on. And she had to sleep across my face.
That's so
So now
cute.
that I think about it, I have been like this forever. And I remember I went home, you know, after my terrible first year of college. I've been diagnosed with all these things. My dad is like, oh my God, I failed you. He felt awful. And I was like, stop it. He was like, you know, looking back at it, you did always ask to play, and all you ever did want to do was set up your figurines in a very specific order around the table, and then you were like, done, and he was like, are we gonna play now? And you were like, we just did. What do you mean?
Yeah. It's funny, my grandparents and, like, aunts and uncles always describe my dad like that. He would line up all his toy trucks and just, like, clean them, and that was his playing. Like, he would just polish them. And I would do the same thing with Polly Pockets.
I loved my Polly Pockets.
Obsessed with my Polly Pockets. And we got the rugs that were, I think they were marketed for boys with the toy cars.
Yes.
But I had the rug
but
for
it was a road in a town.
Yep, it was my Polly Pocket town. And yeah, I would pretty much just set it up too, but then my sister would want to play. And I had very specific, like, rules of play.
This is one of those times where I think it was probably better for everyone that I was an only child. I think I would have, like, probably murdered a sibling. I would have been like, you cannot participate in this.
My sister was, like, she was the kind of girl that would, like, chop the hair off of the dolls.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Not I.
No,
Not I.
I never drew in a book. I never colored on the wall. I never cut anyone's hair.
No, same. I don't think I did that kind of thing either. But yeah, my sister would, color outside the lines, I guess you could say. That's hilarious. Yeah, I, like, forget about things like this until you really start to think about it.
My parents' favorite story is one time I put myself in timeout. And they came into our living room, and they were like, hey, like, my parents call me Cody. That's where K comes from, too, because they spell it Kody. They were like, hey, Cody, what you doing? And I was like, I'm in timeout. And they were like, why? And I was like, I was bad.
Oh
And they were like,
God.
what'd you do? And I was like, I deserve to be here. I'm in timeout. And they were like, okay. And they said I wouldn't tell them what they did. I was just sitting
Oh my
in
God,
the
you
corner.
never told them?
No.
They
I don't know
no
what
idea.
it was.
That's crazy. I only remember one time that I got in trouble as a kid, and I have no idea. Oh, actually, I do know what I did. Something was, like, taken for, and now that I think about it, like, now I know why this is also triggering for me. Like, I think I had something taken for some reason. Like, I must have done something, but I don't remember what I did. It was probably, like, being mean to my sister. Like, that would track for me. Not destroying things, like, being mean to my sister. And then I did have, like, a physical, like, outburst because my mom took my blankies. And that, like, I still have my childhood blanket. I'm not ashamed. I will be that girl that has a tiny fucking scrap at year 40. Like, I'm sure that'll be me. And that's, like, all I do is, like, scrunch. When I was a kid and I was stressed, or scrunch. And that thing never left my side. Never. Except, well, school I didn't bring it because, again, dirty. Dirty.
Germs.
Or I think I probably took it a couple times with my mom, but, like, because I couldn't touch anything, I would put it in, like, a pillowcase, in another pillowcase, and wrap it all up, and then put it in a bag, and then put it in my bag. Insane. But she took that, and then I literally kicked out a banister. A full banister. And my parents could never replace it. It's still missing to this day. It's the only thing in my entire house that
isn't, like, perfect.
Yes. I'm not kidding. That is the only thing that they could never fix, never change, and it bothers them too. But they'd have to replace the entire thing because they were just specifically, like, made for the hat. Like, I don't know. So there isn't another one that matches.
Crazy.
And they're like, we're not going to rip out our entire staircase to replace this one thing. And conveniently, it's at, like, the one part that, it's at the end. So it doesn't necessarily look like one's
Yeah.
missing. We just know it's missing.
So
But
funny.
if it looked like it was one that was missing and it was in the middle, guarantee you they would
They
have ripped the
would've.
whole thing out
Oh
and
my
then
God.
redone it. But
That's so funny. I feel like we're uncovering so much because you said that you would scrunch.
yeah,
I didn't suck my thumb as a kid. I sucked these 2 fingers. Which is
interesting.
weird. But I had Bear had a tag like on like her hip or whatever. And it was like a long, just like silky, like soft tag that most of animals had. So to fall asleep, I would suck the fingers and then I would go like this on the tag,
Oh my
and
God.
I wore it down till there was nothing left. There was no tag, and that was my like comfort to
Yeah,
fall asleep.
I just scrunch. I just call it scrunching because, like, that's just what it is. Anyways, we could probably talk for frickin' ever about that, but I did want to just say, should I go into just what's happening, like, in your brain, just so you know, and, like, why this all kind of makes sense, and we can kind of, like, close out from there?
Let's do that.
Okay. So, I loved when I was first explained this concept of, like, literally just what's neurologically happening when you have PTSD or you've had trauma in general, because everything you've been saying, we're like, someone could totally say we're crazy.
Yeah.
People do call others crazy. Like, that happens, especially with survivors, and you feel crazy when you don't know why you have all these feelings, or when you do have outbursts, or you're crying all the time, or you're just, like, in that fight or flight mode all the time. So, just so you understand what's happening, survivors will find themselves stuck in that same state of hyperarousal that we've been talking about, when you're feeling just on edge in situations that feel comfortable and normal to other people. And a lot of times when this goes untreated and persists for a really long time, you can also end up with like chronic illness or chronic pain. So like that might be painful sex, but it might also be like headaches, or just like nausea. So a lot of times people will go to the doctors and be like, I've been having headaches for years, and they won't even think like, oh, do you have trauma in your past? And like that actually could be the reason why this is happening. So because it's not usually people's first thoughts, like these things just get really like invalidated and minimized. But to kind of like separate or break it down a little bit, someone that does not have trauma would be called like optimal functioning. Your brain has optimal functioning. So I don't want to say like normal functioning, because all of this is normal. And in your limbic system, we have what is called your feeling, or it's called like your feeling and reacting brain. So you might have heard of parts of this. So like your hippocampus has your memories, your amygdala, that's your emotion-based part that houses the fight or flight that people talk about, or even the hypothalamus is part of that, and that's like you're hungry, you're thirsty, you have to pee, stuff like that. So your limbic system has a parasympathetic and then sympathetic nervous systems, and your parasympathetic is the rest and digest. That's your just like day-to-day functioning. So someone that has optimal functioning, for the most part, you're staying in the parasympathetic mode unless you are actually in danger, and then you'd switch to your sympathetic nervous system, and that's just our danger mode. So when you're in danger mode, your body puts a pause on anything that you don't need to survive, which is really important and like makes so much sense when you put it all together. So you're still able to breathe, but then the things that you don't need, like eating, or like if you're hungry, you won't feel hungry, you're not going to feel like aroused, you won't need to use the bathroom. So that's why if you're like about to give a huge presentation in class and you're like, oh, I feel so sick, like I can't eat, it's because you're kind of in this mode, like your body is so nervous about something, it feels like it's in danger kind of. So when you get stuck in this mode. If you have PTSD, if you have trauma that's unhealed, and you stay in danger mode, your limbic system can't accurately appraise like threats or dangers in your life, which is why you get so jumpy and why you're like crying and you don't know why you're feeling this way when like things that again feel normal to other people are triggering you and you don't know why. It's because your brain's like not letting you do all the other stuff and you're just like, am I in danger? Am I in danger? Like, and then you just react to that basically. So it's really hard because it's like evolution's like working against you. Mm-hmm. You know, like your body is literally not letting you like sometimes fight back. Like if it is, you know, dating violence or SA and we're talking in that mode and you're like, well, why didn't you fight back? Or why did you run from something or whatever? Like you're not thinking. It's just your body's reaction, like doing whatever your body can to survive in that moment. And also when you are in this mode for however long, like a significant period of time, your brain then just makes new neural pathways that are quicker. So it skips steps that it would normally take, again, because it's like, we have to work really fast because we're in danger. I don't need to do all these other things that we might do. So that's, again, why people might, I said in the beginning of the episode, be in like a primal mode. Like you're just angry or you're so sad. And that's just because your brain made these new neural networks. So it's really hard to then retrain your brain and like get your body back into that optimal functioning, that rest and digest. But it's very possible and people do it all the time. So I just like to like explain that because I think it makes so much more sense of why that's actually happening.
Of course, I think one of the most reassuring things to hear when you're coming out of trauma or you're first being diagnosed with any sort of mental health disorder is that these kind of things change your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
Like they absolutely 100% just alter the way your brain works chemically. Mm-hmm. And it's like that's so beyond out of your control. It's like your body is doing so many things that you just can't control. And trust me, we're people that like to control as much as we possibly can. So
you didn't get that.
We know how frustrating that feeling is, but it's very real, and it's just kind of one of those things that you have to understand happens kind of without your knowledge and knowing, and you just have to be able to hold on to the fact that you didn't choose that, and that's how your body's reacting, and you just have to be able to adjust however you can.
Exactly. Just in general, for like everything we've said, I just want anyone listening to know that all of these experiences are normal and common and you're not alone, and there are always going to be people that can help you and want to help you, and you don't have to go through anything alone. We're here for you. We'll drop some resources.
Of course, no feeling is too small. Everything's valid.
Yeah. All right.
We love you.
Love you. Follow us on Instagram at dearmk.podcast
and
TikTok at dearmkps. And subscribe and give us a 5-star review.
Love you.
My whole body just like cracked.
Till next time. XOXO MK.